Hey, everybody loves him, huh? Not I. Okay, I woke up with hate in my blood, violence in my mind. Shout out to Mr. ST, I think that's the name. I always choose violence. I'm a hip hop baby. This is what we do, we get it in, alright? So look, before I even get into the shit, I just want to say, obviously, this is my opinion, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not personal, right? Disclaimers, right? I don't know Joey Badass, so none against the brother. I just know his music, and I don't like his music. I never liked his music, to be honest with you. But the reason why I'm making this video is that I kind of got inspired after listening to his interview with Nas on the Bridge podcast. Now, there's certain people on there that I'm kind of like, they sound like they did a favor, like Joey Badass, for example, where Nas probably don't listen to your music, probably don't really know shit about you like that. But, you know, if somebody in this circle is like, hey, this would be a good look and favors industry shit, that's how you ended up there, I'm assuming. So, I like the podcast in general, and I can't wait for Nas to do some like Queensbridge shit, like, you know what I'm saying, interview Marley Marl or Large Professor, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, just certain people that like were architects of the sound. That's what I'm waiting for, but that's beside the point. Joey Badass came on the podcast, and he was talking about how he always wanted to be an actor. Yeah, I can tell. You're not good at rhyming, man. Respectfully, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're just there. Like, you're just another guy rhyming. You know what I'm saying? Lil B once said, a lot of niggas rap, but don't nobody care. And that's a bar, if you really sit and think about it. Because, yeah, a lot of people rap, but do you really give a fuck when they speak? Or do you take in what they're saying? Like, do you feel them? You know, Joey Badass should just be rapping. You know, I'm in Brooklyn with a sandwich, you know, my killers is around the way, but, you know, I just want to live a peaceful life. Like, you know, it's stuff that, like, instantly forgettable. You know what I'm saying? And this has always been my problem with Joey Badass. I just don't like the vocal tone of this dude, man. Let's rewind this. Rewind! Brooklyn, shout out to Brooklyn, by the way. So, he was talking about how, yeah, well, you know, I grew up wanting to be an actor and stuff like that. And I'm thinking, then why are you rapping? See, this is the whole thing. And Miss Info did this one thing where she was like, you know, back in the day, we used to frown on that. And provided zero context as to why we used to frown on that shit. You know what I'm saying? Didn't explain why. Just as almost like looked at it as like, oh yeah, we had this like random rule about you being an actor rapping. What's the line? I hate a rapper to play an actor, or I hate an actor to play a rapper. One of those two, from one of those lines from back in the day. And Miss Info was just like, oh yeah, I don't, you know, it looks like you just moved on from that, and you know, the game has evolved, and that was it. There was no fucking explanation as to why that's a problem. The reason why that's a problem is that ultimately, again, if you're a hip-hop fan, hip-hop is its own thing, right? Music is its own thing. We want people, especially back then, we wanted the craft to be at its highest level, right? Our fans, people like me, demanded more. Right? Because again, it was a smaller industry in the grand scheme of things. And the people who were really into hip hop at that time were actually, for the most part, really into hip hop. Right? And they wanted a certain quality level. The problem with having, you know, an actor just become a rapper, someone who, you know, actually wants this, but is going to use hip hop as a stepping stool, that's a vulture move. You know this. You know what I'm saying? And the problem with people like that is that they're usually really lazy with their rhymes and their music in general. It's not like they're like, look, listen, I want to be a great, amazing rapper and an amazing actor, so I'm going to do both, which is really fucking hard to do, by the way. But, you know what I'm saying? It's more of like, no, I'm using this art form, so I'm actually going to do the bare minimum just so that I can get some attention in this thing, and I'm going to translate that into something else. You're a vulture. Real shit. And I don't like that. I don't appreciate that as a hip-hop fan. So, this is what Joey Badass was saying, and I'm like sitting there going like, yeah, of course that's a problem, right? Because A, think about how hard it is to become a rapper. It requires some real flow technique. You gotta learn, study music. You gotta know a lot about music in general to be a great rapper. That's number one. So it's a craft thing. Yes, of course, you know, if you're in the arts, they tend to bleed over in a way. Like a great artist, I think, has the potential to be great in other aspects of art, right? Because it's like an athlete, right? Steph Curry, LeBron James, these are great athletes. They could probably play like soccer. They could play American football, whatever. But the fact of the matter is this. Can you imagine Steph Curry playing NBA for like a year or two back when, you know, he first came into the league in like 2009 when he wasn't that great? He was cool. He was great. He had the potential to be great. But he does that for like a little while and then just is like, oh, okay, now I've got some attention. I actually really wanted to be in the NFL. Can you imagine that shit? Would you take that nigga seriously? No, you wouldn't. You know what I'm saying? You would look at him as like, you're a fucking goofy. Why didn't you just go into the NFL to begin with? Oh, you couldn't go in there because you're not good enough. And that's the whole point, right? And even if Steph Curry was able to transition into NFL, he doesn't have the chops, right? He's barely been a basketball player, and now he's going to enter the NFL, which I guess always wanted to be, but he hasn't trained to be an NFL player. So it's like, you're just getting mediocrity across the board. And this is my problem with people that jump into lanes. Do you know what I'm saying? It's the mediocrity of it all, right? Like, if Joey Badass really wanted to be an actor, he should have just been a fucking actor. But again, this is the reality of hip-hop and where we are today. Mediocrity is a thing. It's about the look and the image and the presentation and the image and the narrative. And it's not about the art form and like what the person is actually bringing to the table artistically, because nobody's bringing anything to the table. And I get it. Look, listen. If you're not bringing nothing to the table, if the people who have the spotlight aren't bringing shit to the table, then you might as well just do the same thing, right? It is what it is, you know? As I come back, okay, so listen, Joey Badass, right? This is my issue with Joey Badass. Like I said, the dude never liked his music. I always thought his music was pretty flat, didn't really have a lot of personality. And now I'm finding out that you wanted to be a fucking actor before all this shit? Like, nigga, what? This, again, like I said, if you're gonna make rap music, be a rapper, you know what I'm saying? It's different if you start out as a rapper and you're inspired and you make some great music and then you want to try something different because, you know, that's how you feel, right? But to want to always be an actor and then you want to rap because that's your way in is like, now to be 1000% fair, I kind of don't blame Joey Badass the whole way through because America has a real problem with accepting black folk that don't rap or play basketball, right? And so I understand that. It's not like there's black actors out here getting a ton of roles and shit. There's always a couple of niggas. That's it. You know what I'm saying? The same niggas, they put them in everything. You know what I'm saying? And so I understand to a certain degree why somebody who is an actor might look at it that way and be like, look, listen, if I can get an audience, right, doing rap, the bar for rap is low as fuck, right? Obviously, which is why someone like Joey Badass can enter. There's no bar, right? So he's probably looking at it being like, well, I mean, it's a pretty, not that it's easy, but there's a way in. So I get it. And look, listen, people have been doing this. Joey Badass is not the first one. I'm not knocking Joey Badass for this specifically as though he's the person that invented this. People have been trying to enter rap for other reasons other than making hip-hop music. We know this. You know, Joey Badass is not the first person to vulture rap like that. But again, if you're gonna vulture rap, I'm gonna obviously mention it, right? And I feel a certain way about it. So in terms of Joey Badass's music, like I said, I always thought his delivery was pretty flat. Like, there's just something about his voice. I mean, there's a little bit of energy there, a little bit, but it's not enough, in my opinion. And to be honest with you, it's not so much that I find the guy, I mean, his music is sleepy to me, but it's more of like, he hasn't gotten the finesse down to me perfectly. Perfect example of this is this. Let me play this beat. When Joey Badass wasted this beat, I was like, this is when I was like, okay, I'm done with this guy. How do you waste this? Dude gives you a layup. This is a layup of a beat. You know what I mean? Like, you should just come in, smooth it out. You see, Joey Badass to me doesn't understand, like, certain beats have certain energy and he doesn't deliver the right energy to the beat, in my honest opinion. He just like attacks it because that's kind of like his perception of how a 90s rapper should be. But it's like he's missing the point, right? Rap in the 90s wasn't just like rah, 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 rah. That's, you know, that's not really it. You know what I'm saying? Like, people rapped there's a variety of ways that they rap, but ultimately they match the energy of their beats. So if you rapping on some lo-fi ass shit, you gotta kind of come into the pocket a little bit better. You gotta understand the energy that you're giving. And the way that Joey, to me, completely wasted this beat was like unlistenable. I just was like, nah. Like, this dude is not as talented on the mic. He might be a great actor, but on the mic, he's not as talented as y'all pretend he is. You know what I'm saying? Of course, the bars are sleepy. I already knew that about Joey. But like I said, this is a generation where nobody really wants to rap. Real shit. Nobody wants to say anything of real substance or something that's real captivating. Like I told you, right? My girl Cotton can out rap all these cats. You know what I'm saying? Like, even just on some swagger shit. Because a lot of these guys, they don't have nothing original about their swagger. Their swagger is to borrow stuff that is already instantly recognizable. When you see Joey Badass, and credit to his team, you know right away this is a guy who's trying to be a 90s rapper, right? It's instant, right? So for a casual, they can go, oh yeah, people like the 90s. So that's it. That's the guy. He's the resurrection of the real. But like I said, it's image-driven shit. It doesn't really work as far as the actual music goes. So that's just my opinion, man. I don't really, knock the brother necessarily. Like I said, a lot of people have this thing where it's like, we can't knock a dude because, he's using rap to eat. But again, the problem, here's the thing that people don't talk about. The problem with just letting brothers run up and rap and do whatever the fuck they want and have no skill set and lower the bar is y'all don't realize, but by doing that, essentially what you're doing is you're inviting other people outside of the hip hop and black community to enter, because you're basically saying, hey, this skill set that we've worked decades to create doesn't matter. You can just enter it. And look, the casuals on the outside love that shit, because deep down they look at it like, yo, I want to be controlling this. I want to be part of this. And again, when you lower the bar, you allow more and more vultures to enter, and then you lose control of the shit, which is why in 2022, hip hop doesn't feel black anymore at all. And it hasn't felt black in, I would argue, 20 years. You know what I'm saying? Before, when you look at the people behind the scenes in the labels, these were black folk, right? The A&Rs, the execs, and things of that nature, right? Now, they may have been signed to, like, I don't know, a big white company overall, but it's not like those white guys at the top, at least from what I understand, was making all the decisions, right? Like the brothers and the sisters who were signing these acts and thinking about and developing their sounds, these are mostly people of the hip hop community. Now, they could be different races too. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're black. But my point is, you had a lot of people that were just straight hip hop, mostly black, who were developing this art form and developing this, the artists and things like that, right? Because the bar is high. And when black folk are really invested in the musical genre, we bat high with that shit, okay? Again, like I've said, the problem is when you start to lower the bar, that's when you start to get a lot of people. You get your Adam 22s and stuff coming into the business because they can. The bar's low. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not a fan, honestly, man. And I think that that's a problem. That's something that obviously people don't talk about, but it is what it is, man. You got someone like Joey in the game. I just want Joey to make better music, honestly. Like, if you're going to rap, make some actual hot shit. You know what I'm saying? Waves had its 10-year anniversary, I guess. Came and went. I don't know. I don't think anybody gave a fuck. You tell me. I could be off. But you tell me if there's a record on Waves that's, or 1999, I'm sorry, that's worth hearing. Because I don't remember any of them. Like, you know what I'm saying? I heard when Waves came out, people made a big deal out of it in the underground scene. I always thought it was sleepy. I heard the Hard Knock, I think, he had with CJ Fly at the time, and I was like, this is also sleepy, Eminem-ish type of rhyme style, and I'm not into this. You know what I'm saying? It's too throwback-ish. And like I said, the innovators are the ones that remind you of something, but they're doing something very, very unique at the same time. They're bringing themselves into it, because ultimately, you can't just be a product of your influences, if that makes sense. You can't just be a mirror of your influences. That's boring. Do you know what I'm saying? Because, you might look and to a certain degree sometimes sound like Buckshot doesn't mean that I actually want to hear you rap. I'd rather listen to Buckshot. You know what I'm saying? But if you're like inspired by Buckshot and BCC and Doom and whatever, but then you take it and you put it in a different way where almost like the places where those brothers didn't go, you now go there, that's different. Not just because you're a young guy and, they didn't have the internet and you have the internet, so that's the difference. No, that's corny. We talk about Steph Curry. I mentioned this in the video prior, but What makes Steph Curry so ill is that Steph Curry is really an original. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that people weren't doing what Steph Curry was beforehand, right? But Steph Curry is original because he took himself outside of the I'm trying to be like Jordan, right? That kind of mentality a lot of people had. Because the reality is that there's a lot of very talented styles of play in basketball. Not everybody has to be fucking Michael Jordan. You know what I'm saying? And Steph Curry understands that. We've had a lot of players that have come through with amazing talent that do all kinds of interesting things. And that's why when Steph, he kind of took that Allen Iverson, Reggie Miller, style of play, right? And then just went in a different direction. That's what I'm saying. He took something that typically people weren't really giving light to, but should have been given light to. And then not only that, but he like remixed it in his own way. And now he's Steph Curry. He's himself, right? He took it in, repurposed it, made it his. And I'm not seeing enough of that with Joey, right? And that's why it's of no surprise to me that he admitted in an interview that he wanted pop success and he started trying to sell out, because that's what he was initially. He just wanted to be famous. He didn't want to be a real rapper like that. He was just like, yo, listen, man, there's a market for people that want that retread shit. I'm gonna deliver that. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna pretend I'm the realest dude, one of the realest rappers, and the underground heads are gonna eat that shit up. And they did, actually. They really did kind of eat that up at the time. But as you can see, that shit don't really last. We don't talk about Joey's music like that. He's just a guy that was rapping at a time and then became an actor. He's not in the game no more. But back then, oh my God. People were pretending like this guy was a second coming. Not everybody, but I can tell you that there were people that I know that were like, yo, Joey Badass. Have you heard Joey Badass? And I'm thinking to myself, this is nowhere near the quality of Live Love ASAP. Or even Underachievers or some of this other stuff. It's the retread shit. You like the look. He handsome guy. Again, people fall for this stuff all the time, right? Anyways, long story short is I do wish the brother luck. Like I said, I know that this media game is a tough game. Trust me. I feel that shit. But at the same time, it's nice if somebody can come in with some actual great music. So far, Unorthodox to me is the best song this guy has ever recorded. If you ask me, in my honest opinion. I don't think he's got a better track than Unorthodox. And even that is not a track that I'm like playing all the time like that. I'm really not listening to it. Of course, Primo, being the genius that he is, laced him a bit. You know what I'm saying? It's not one of Primo's greatest beats either, but it's one of the better Primo beats, from that time era. Because to me, after about 2011, that's when Primo's sound started to change a little bit, and not for the better. But again, I can't even knock Primo because Primo has been making crazy shit since the freaking late 80s. Like, you know what I'm saying? His run is ridiculous. Like, you people talk about, we talk about Pierre Bourne and Metro. Like, DJ Premier has been that guy. He's been that dude, production-wise, for 2 decades and more. He's still that guy. People are still going to him. You know what I'm saying? Like Griselda going to him, headlines. You know what I'm saying? Which I wasn't a huge fan of, but is one of their better songs if I had to pick a song. But that's my point. Like, Primo, can you imagine a guy making banger after banger after banger for freaking 20 years straight? That's nothing like, you can't even compare it to guys like, your new guys you put on a pedestal. So my point is, he went and got Primo's cosign and it helped him for sure. But ultimately, that shit gonna last. It don't last, man. And I have to say, another thing that for me, I wasn't a big fan of when it came to Joey Badass is, like I said, I don't care for his beats. I think he's gotten 2 great beats. Unorthodox being one of them is a good beat. I wouldn't even say that's an amazing beat. And to me, this Amethyst Rockstar is the best beat I think I've ever heard Joey on. You know what I mean? And he squandered it. So that alone makes me go, you're not that good. You know what I mean? Great rappers don't squander beats. I've never seen, you might think, oh, Playboi Carti. Tochi listens to Playboi Carti. He don't know rap. Playboi Carti squanders beats all the time. Actually not really. Playboi Carti is smart enough to match the energy of what the beat is. He actually listens to the beat and is able to go, okay, this is on some fun, bouncy shit, because that's what Pierre is about. And, Playboi Carti will match the energy of that beat and vocally match it. Yeah, he's not saying nothing, right? It's very sort of whatever. But he's at least matching the energy. So, when I'm, bouncing to the Pierre beat or Harry Fraud or whatever, and Playboi Carti is like, what? You can just have my car. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, you're matching the energy. That's what you're supposed to do. Joey Badass wouldn't even match the fucking energy. Joey Badass would just do this, his best, I guess, BCC angry buckshot impression on all the tracks. He'll just, he would just rap the same way the entire time. And that to me is what I'm saying. That already puts you in a lower caliber than Playboi Carti. Again, I listen to this rap shit. This is some advanced shit. You know what I'm saying? Some of y'all, you look at the surface. You look at shit like the image. He's trying to be like a 90s rapper, so automatically he's putting words together, so automatically he's better than someone like Playboi Carti. It don't work like that. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't work like that in rap. What it works like is how are you actually constructing the music deep down, the vibe, the emotion, the cadence. These are the things that you can't teach. You just gotta learn. Right? And it comes with practice. You have to actually spend the time to figure out how you're going to match the energy of a beat. What you're going to, it's not just what you're going to say on the beat, because that's another thing entirely. But it's like, what energy are you going to bring to the beat? Are you going to match it? Are you going to not match it, but in a rare case, kind of go in a different direction than what you would expect? Perfect example of this is, let me see if I can play this instrumental. I love how OD Beats came on this song. If you guys can already think of where I'm going with this. But there's certain times when people just match the energy, but they kind of go in a way that you wouldn't necessarily think about it. But then when you think about it, you're like, yeah, that was the right thing to do. This is a great example. But then this beat is hard, actually, really hard. So, but I remember the first time I heard Brooklyn Zoo and I was like, this part's like, and then the way, I'm the one man, I'm the Ason. And I was like, oh, I didn't quite expect that, but it works, right? Like, it is brilliant. Like I said, it's a brilliant beat, and I guess it does have that, like, I'll snatch your chain if you're not paying attention type vibe. So ODB did come at it, again, like I said, with the right rah-rah. But my point is this, you have to match the energy of the fucking beat. This is basic rap 101 shit. And to me, Joey Badass never really did that. And his beats are always kind of more on the sleepy, lo-fi-ish type of vibe. So I never really, it just never worked for me. You know what I mean? So, long story short, if you're not a fan, you're not the only one that felt this way. Trust me on that, because I was never a fan of this dude's music. I've never seen him act, so I can't talk about his acting. I wish the brother all the luck in the world, but the music is not for me. All right? Peace and love.